I'm a pilot. A passenger once screamed we were being followed by a cloud. We almost ignored him. What we saw next still haunts my flights. At that moment, the anxiety began to transform into another feeling. A sense of strangeness, as if something wasn't right. Captain Arthur, with his experience, tried changing the radar frequency, zooming in and out, hoping for a clearer picture, but to no avail. It remained a mysterious blip slowly but steadily approaching. I told him, "Captain, I'm going to look out the window again. This time I'll focus very carefully." "Easy does it," he said, his eyes on the instruments. I got up again, trying to look further and more intently. The sky was still black and full of stars. But this time I saw something at the very edge of my vision. A blackness within the black. As if a piece of the sky, anew, was erased. A patch devoid of stars, a patch that was moving. I quickly returned to my seat, my heart pounding hard. "Captain, there's something huge in black. There are no stars in that area at all, just like the man said." Captain Arthur raised an eyebrow and looked at me intently. "Are you sure? And not an optical illusion?" "I'm sure, Captain. See for yourself." Captain Arthur cautiously got up and looked out the window. There he looked for a while, then returned to a complete silence. His face had changed. Again his expression indicated he'd seen something he hadn't wanted to believe. "Did you see it?" I asked in a low voice. He nodded slowly. "I saw it." The silence that fell upon the cockpit this time was different. It wasn't the silence of contemplation. It was the silence of dread. We were both professional pilots, believers in science and logic, but what we were seeing had no logical explanation. Suddenly the intercom buzzed again. This time, the flight attendant's voice was very shaky, as if she was crying. "Captain Man." The man suddenly calmed down completely. Again, and he's sitting in his seat, looking out the window and smiling a very strange smile. And he's saying, "Of a turn they've seen it now. Now it's their turn to act correctly." Captain Arthur and I looked at each other. Those words hit us like a thunderbolt. Did this man know we would see it? And did he know what we were supposed to do? Captain Arthur, despite everything happening, maintained his composure. He picked up the intercom handset and told the flight attendant, "Listen to me carefully, I want that man to speak to us again, immediately." A few seconds later, the man's choked voice came through again, but this time was unnervingly calm. "Yes, Captain." Captain Arthur said, in a voice he tried to keep as normal as possible. "What exactly are you seeing? Ahmed, and what are we supposed to do?" The man replied with perfect calm, as if explaining a lesson in school. "You see it now, don't you? The black cloud that swallows the stars, it's behind us and it's watching us. It's been doing this with other planes for a long time." "Other planes?" I asked quickly. "What planes?" "It doesn't matter," the man replied. "What matters now is you. It knows you've seen it, but it's not yet sure you understand its nature. If it senses you're afraid of it, or that you're trying to escape it overtly, and it will get closer. And that will be a big problem." Captain Arthur said. "A big problem how?" "This is just a strange atmospheric phenomenon, right?" He was trying to convince himself more than the man. The man let out a fate made the hair on my body stand on atmospheric phenomenon. "No, Captain, this isn't an atmospheric phenomenon. This is something else entirely. Something older than the sky itself." He paused for a moment, then continued. "Listen to me very carefully. This is the most important part. You must, if you see nothing, as if everything is normal, continue your flight as usual, are on same speed, same alt, same course. Don't make any sudden maneuvers. Don't talk about it on the radio with anyone. Don't let anyone among the passengers or crew other than myself. And I've of course understood my role, sense that anything is wrong." "How?" I asked, not understanding. "Don't see how can we act as if we don't have a black monster the size of a small city chasing us. You must," he said decisively. "Agree for your reaction. It's waiting for your reaction. If you ignore it completely as if it doesn't exist, as it's just part of the night, it will gradually lose interest in you. It will feel that you're not a worthy target, or that you're too foolish to understand the danger." His words were insane. But at the same time, out of the terror that had been his voice earlier, and the confident calm with which he spoke now made us believe him. Or at least, it made us willing to try anything. Captain Arthur asked him, "And you, how did you know all this?" The man fell silent again for long seconds, so long that we thought the line had disconnected. As if sharing, then he said in a low voice, as if sharing, "It's the skies and ours alone, Captain. It never has been. And ask what really happened Malaysia Flight 370. Ask seriously and look beyond the official statements." After that sentence, the line disconnected. We tried to call him again, but the flight attendant said he had gone back to looking out the window. I wasn't responding to anyone and still had that strange smile on his face. Captain Arthur and I sat looking at each other for minutes, trying to process what we had heard. A cloud chasing us, a mysterious passenger telling us to ignore it, and then hinting at the fate of the missing Malaysian airliner. It was a nightmare, but we didn't have the luxury of time. Tis thing, the cloud or entity or whatever it was still behind us. It was now showing more clearly on the radar, a naked visible to the naked from the windows if we looked carefully. It was a huge black mass with no distinct features, moving with us at our exact speed, maintaining a constant distance. Stranger still, and Gruik, it made no sound and didn't the aircraft's performance or its instruments. It was like a giant phantom. Captain Arthur broke the silence. "We'll do as he said." I looked at him disbelieving. "Seriously, Captain, we're going to ignore. Do you have another solution?" he asked, looking me straight in the eye. "If we try to escape, and his words might not to be turned and things could get worse. If we report it, they'll call us crazed. Try it. Act calmly, as if nothing, focus on our jobs." And indeed, that's what we did, and re-engaged the autopilot and went back to monitoring the instruments as if everything was normal. But of course, it wasn't normal, and every few seconds I would involuntarily glance at the radar and or try to catch the glimpse of this thing from the window. My heart was beating so violently I could hear it in my ears. A sweat drenched me, even though the cockpit air conditioning was working fine. An hour passed, an hour of silent terror, and an hour of us pretending not to see the monster stalking us in the darkness of the sky. Every minute felt like a year. I felt the eyes of that thing on us studying seeing us waiting for any wrong move, Captain Arthur was incredibly composed. He spoke to me in a normal voice about routine flight matters if he genuinely hadn't noticed anything. I tried to play along, but my voice came out shaky despite myself. Suddenly I noticed something on the radar. The black spot was starting to move away. Very slowly at first, and its speed increased slightly. I looked out the window cautiously. The black mass was still there, but it was indeed starting to shrink as if it were retreating. I said in a hushed voice, Captain, it's moving away. And Arthur looked at the radar, then out the window. Hidden didn't try to hide the flicker of hope that appeared in his eyes. Let's keep an eye on it. And do nothing different. We maintained our course. Another half hour and the thing was receding further and further. Off until it disappeared quickly from the radar screen. We looked out the windows. There was no trace of it. The sky was perfectly clear again, the stars shining as if nothing had happened. A feeling of relief mixed with disbelief. We sighed, flooded the cockpit in unison. It was as if a mountain had been lifted from our chests. Captain Arthur said, and his voice still bearing a trace of tension.
Thank God, we made it through. Thank God.
I replied, still not quite comprehending. Ate the rest of the flight eventfully, at least outward, but of course it wasn't uneventful for us. Every so often, we'd check the radar out the windows if afraid this thing might return. As we approached Cairo and began our descent procedures, Captain Arthur asked the flight attendant to check on that strange man. Our flight attendant replied that he was asleep, sleeping soundly and very peacefully, as if nothing had happened. When we landed safely at the airport and I was shutting down the engines, Captain Arthur said, we have to see this man and talk to him. We need to understand more from him. As soon as the passengers began to disembark, we also quickly left the aircraft and stood by the exit door waiting for him. The flight attendants were with us, all also wanting to see him. All the passengers disembarked one after another, young people, families, children. But there was no sign of that man. We were very surprised. We asked the lead flight attendant, did he get off? Are you sure you saw him disembark? She said as puzzled as we were. I was standing at the door the whole time, Captain, and I didn't see him get off, but I also didn't see him get up from his seat after he woke up shortly before landing. Actually, he was sitting in seat number X by the window. We hurried to look at the seat she mentioned. The seat was empty. There was no trace of him, no bag, no jacket, nothing to indicate anyone had been sitting there at all. How could we looked at each other in shock? How could a passenger just disappear from an airplane? Did he deplane with the other passengers, impostums, and we just missable? We were paying very close attention. Was he never even there? No, we spoke to him. On the surveillance, saw him on the surveillance cameras, and the flight attendants interacted with him. We checked the passenger manifest. The name corresponding to that seat was a very ordinary name, nothing remarkable about it. And at airport, security thoroughly searched the aircraft after we told them the story. Of course, we didn't tell them about the cloud. Just that a passenger had been causing a disturbance and had disappeared. They found no trace of him. It was as if he had simply dissolved in air. To this day, a Captain Arthur who became more like a brother to me after what happened. I can find no logical explanation for that night. And who was that man? Was the cloud or the thing that was following us? And how did he know all that? And why did he disappear in that manner? Whenever I look at the night sky, especially on long flights over remote areas, I feel like eyes are watching us from the darkness. And I remember that man's words, that sky isn't ours alone. Sense keeps ringing in my ears, and I always ask myself, I really happened to flight 370. And how many other flights have gone through the same experience with no one ever knowing? If any of you have any explanation, or have experienced something similar, please share. I need to understand. I need to know I'm not crazy. Sorry for the length, but I need to get this off my chest. Thank you for listening.